Ever get that feeling like you're navigating a crowded marketplace almost blindfolded, just wishing you had a clear picture of what everyone else is actually doing?
Yeah, like a kind of cheat sheet, maybe.
Exactly, like a secret roadmap to their wins, that, well, their mess-ups, even what makes their customers tick.
Mm-hmm.
Well, consider this your moment of clarity.
Okay, so today we're diving deep into um, the really crucial art of understanding your competition.
Right.
The kind of understanding that builds a real, sustainable edge. We've pulled together insights from, well, various articles and research
I
papers.
focused on smart ways to gather intel, right, without breaking the bank.
Precisely. Focused on cost-effective strategies.
Hmm.
Specifically, we looked at one piece, the benefits of knowing your competition cost-effective data gathering strategies.
Okay.
That was by Kalyani Raj from Cognitive Market Research.
Got it. And our goal here, it isn't just to, like, skim the surface.
No, definitely not.
We want to pull out the genuinely useful stuff, the actionable intelligence from all this material. We're aiming to help you, listening right now, not just figure out who your competitors are, but to really grasp their strategies.
And use that knowledge.
Use that knowledge to strengthen your own position.
Sure.
In a real meaningful way. It's like moving from just watching them to, strategically outplaying them.
Okay, so first things first. We need to define the playing field.
Yeah.
Right? When we talk about the competitive landscape, what are the key distinctions we need to make?
Okay, let's unpack this. The research we looked at, it really hammers home the difference between direct and indirect competitors.
Mhm.
Direct ones are pretty straightforward, aren't they? Businesses offering, like, basically the same thing.
Right, like two local bakeries going head-to-head for the morning croissant crowd.
Exactly. Easy.
But then you have the indirect competitors. Now, these are the ones that might meet the same core customer need, but, in a different way.
Okay, so sticking with the bakery, an indirect competitor might be.
Well, it could be the big grocery store down the street with its own decent bakery section.
Uh,
Or even that coffee shop that also sells pastries and muffins.
mm.
They're not exactly the same, but they're all competing for a slice of that, like, treat or breakfast moment.
That makes sense. And what's really interesting, I thought, is when you actually map out both,
Yes.
your direct and indirect competitors, you start to see the whole picture, the whole ecosystem. You understand not just the obvious players, but also those maybe less direct threats, or even sometimes surprising potential partners, maybe?
Absolutely. It gives you a much broader perspective on where you actually fit in.
Yeah, where you stand.
And the research points out, too, that this map isn't static, is it? It's always shifting.
Oh, constantly.
Things like, new technology or changing consumer tastes.
Mm.
They can completely reshape the landscape.
Right.
So understanding where your competitors sit in relation to those bigger shifts gives you a much clearer sense of what's coming down the pike. Challenges, opportunities, the lot.
Okay, so mapping the landscape is key. Now, one thing that really jumped out at me reading this stuff was the focus on learning not just from successes,
Ah, yes.
but also from failures. We tend to fixate on what our competitors are doing well, don't we?
We absolutely do.
Yeah.
But, like the research highlights, a competitor's misstep, that can be a gold mine of information.
How so?
Well, think about a competitor who launched a new service, maybe, and it just fizzled, didn't take off.
Okay.
Analyzing why it failed,
Mm-hmm.
well, maybe it reveals they totally misjudged customer demand.
Or maybe they just couldn't explain what it was good for. Bad messaging.
Exactly. Didn't communicate the value proposition effectively.
Yeah.
Now, that's a powerful insight for you, isn't it?
It really is. It underlines that critical need to, really test your own ideas and messaging before you go big.
Mm-hmm.
I remember reading about some tech company years ago poured millions into a product based purely on, like, internal feelings.
Uh-huh. Gut feeling.
Yeah, only to see it crash and burn because they never actually, talked to the people they wanted to sell it to.
A classic mistake. And seeing a competitor make a similar blunder could have been a huge, valuable early warning sign for them.
Right. Avoid the same pothole.
Precisely. Or think about, say, a marketing campaign that backfired. Maybe generated negative buzz for a competitor because the tone was off. Or insensitive.
Oh, yeah, that happens.
By digging into that, you get a much sharper sense of the cultural landmines, the sensitivities, the potential pitfalls to sidestep in your own communications.
It's like watching someone else step on the rake, basically. Shows you where not to put your feet.
Couldn't put it better myself.
And it's not just about dodging their mistakes, is it? The research also really stressed how watching your competitors interact with their customers that can tell you loads about what people actually value.
Absolutely crucial. You need to pay attention to the language customers use,
Hmm.
like in reviews, on social media, maybe even how they talk to the competitor staff if you can observe it.
Okay.
What are they always praising? What are the recurring gripes? This is direct, unfiltered feedback on what's genuinely important to them.
Okay, so can you give us a concrete example? How could you actually use that?
Sure. Uh, the research mentioned, like if a competitor keeps getting rave reviews about how fast and helpful their customer support is,
Mm-hmm.
well, that's a pretty strong signal for you to maybe prioritize or even invest more in your own support systems.
Right. Okay. Match or beat them there?
Or, flip side, maybe you see constant complaints about a competitor's really confusing pricing.
Ah, an opportunity.
Exactly. That suggests a chance for you to stand out with simpler, more transparent pricing. It's all about finding what resonates positively or negatively with their audience.
And then seeing where you can either match the good stuff or offer something even better where they're weak.
Precisely. It's about being a really savvy observer of that whole customer-competitor dynamic.
And using those observations to fine-tune your own stuff,
Yeah.
your products, your service, your whole experience.
Yeah, so you create a value proposition that really, truly hits the mark.
Okay, so we've talked about learning from mistakes, understanding customers. What about risk? The research also hit on the role of competitive evaluation in minimizing potential risks.
Well, yeah, absolutely vital. It's all about keeping a watchful eye on that competitive horizon.
So you can anticipate stuff, prepare for challenges.
Exactly. Imagine a new competitor bursts onto the scene, maybe with a totally different business model or some kind of disruptive tech.
Okay, yeah, that'd be worrying.
Well, if you're constantly monitoring your competitive landscape, you can spot these emerging threats much earlier.
And start thinking about how to respond rather than being totally blindsided.
Precisely. It gives you time to formulate a response, adjust your strategy.
It's like having a strategic radar system almost.
That's a good way to put it. And this proactive understanding, it's not just about defense, is it?
No.
It also plays a huge role in just making smarter, more informed decisions across the board.
How so?
Well, whether you're thinking about, say, entering a new market segment, or launching a new product line, or even making big investments in equipment or something, understanding the competitive dynamics gives you essential context.
So you're not making decisions in a vacuum.
Exactly. It lets you weigh the potential risks and rewards with a much clearer head.
Yeah.
Increases the likelihood of, well, things turning out well.
Right. Okay, now all of this learning from mistakes, understanding customers, managing risk at all, ultimately feeds into the big goal, doesn't it? Strengthening your own competitive position for the long run.
That's the end game.
So how does this deep dive into your rivals actually help achieve that?
Well, the research highlights that by thoroughly analyzing your competitors, you inevitably gain a much clearer picture of your own relative strengths and weaknesses.
Ah, so it holds up a mirror in a way.
It really does. It forces some honest self-assessment, but crucially in the context of the market you're actually in.
Okay, give me an example.
All right, so the source points out, if you identify a competitor who can develop and launch new products way faster than you can, that signals a potential weakness in your own processes, right?
Yeah.
Something you might need to fix.
Yeah, got to speed up.
Conversely, maybe your analysis shows you have a much stronger brand reputation in a particular niche.
Okay.
Well, that's a clear strength, something you can lean into, leverage, build upon. It's really about knowing where you shine.
Yeah.
And just as importantly, where you need to step up your game.
And it's not just about those internal checks, right? You mentioned positioning earlier.
Yes, absolutely fundamental.
Yeah.
Competitive analysis is key to strategic business positioning.
Ah.
By understanding the offerings, the pricing strategies, the target audiences of your competitors, you can figure out how to position your own products or services to carve out a unique, attractive space in the market.
Finding your unique spot, your differentiated advantage.
Exactly. You need to answer.
Hmm.
Why should customers choose you over them?
Makes sense. Ultimately, in a busy market, the goal isn't just getting customers, it's keeping them, isn't it?
Building those lasting relationships.
Yeah.
Keeping them choosing you time and again.
And that deep understanding of the whole competitive picture is just essential for that long-term success.
Couldn't agree more. Now, the research we looked at also touched on a specific approach to competitor benchmarking. It mentioned a tool called Relative Insight.
Okay.
And just to be clear, we're simply reporting what was in source here, not endorsing this specific tool over any others.
Understood. Just relaying the info. So what kind of comparisons does this sort of approach involve?
Okay, so the source laid out four main areas for comparison. The first one is brand messaging.
Brand messaging. Okay, what does that mean exactly?
It involves really digging into the language, the core themes, the overall tone that your competitors are using to talk to their audiences.
Like their ads, website copy, social media posts.
All of that, yeah. And by comparing their messaging to your own, you can spot maybe gaps or blind spots, or find opportunities to tell your story differently.
So like if everyone else is talking about reliability.
Maybe you double down on innovation or customer service or sustainability, whatever makes you stand out. It's surprising how often companies think they're communicating one thing.
But the actual words they use tell a different story.
Exactly. Language matters.
Okay, that makes sense. Understanding the stories they tell. What's the second comparison area?
Second is brand perception. This gets into how customers actually see your company compared to your rivals.
Right, not just what you want them to think.
Precisely. This often means analyzing online sentiment, looking at the specific words people use when they talk about different brands.
Are they saying things like trustworthy, innovative, good value, or the opposite?
Exactly. And comparing those perceptions gives you invaluable insight into where your brand really stands in the market, relative to the competition. It's the reality check.
The unvarnished truth. Okay, got it. Third area was voice of customer feedback.
Right. And this is digging deep into the actual words customers use when they talk about their experiences.
So reviews, social media comments, survey responses, that kind of stuff.
Exactly that. And by comparing your customer feedback against your competitors, you can pinpoint really specific areas where you're maybe knocking it out of the park.
Or where you're falling short.
Precisely. This gives you incredibly detailed insights into what genuinely matters to your shared customer base.
Like finding patterns in the complaints or praises?
Yes. We've seen cases where, what seemed like a minor inconvenience with a competitor, if it keeps coming up in their customer feedback, that presents a major opportunity for someone else to step in and offer a smoother experience.
Wow. Okay. That sounds incredibly direct, really valuable info. And the fourth area?
The final area mentioned was talent and employer brand.
Ah, okay. So how you look as a place to work.
Exactly. How your company is perceived as an employer compared to your competitors who are likely fishing in the same talent pool.
Right.
So you'd analyze things like their job postings, employee reviews on sites like Glassdoor, their employer branding content.
To see how they're attracting people, what they emphasize.
Yeah. What aspects of their company culture or benefits or career paths do they push? Understanding those dynamics can really help you sharpen your own employer brand strategy.
So you can attract the best people in your industry. Makes sense.
It's a competitive advantage, too.
So these four lenses then, brand messaging, brand perception, voice of customer, and employer brand, they offer a pretty comprehensive way to benchmark yourself, don't they?
Yeah, really comprehensive.
Yeah.
Identify key areas for strategic focus.
Going beyond just like product features and price points.
Exactly. It gives you that multi-dimensional view of where you stand competitively.
Okay. So let's try and wrap this up. This deep dive into understanding your competition using cost-effective data gathering as our guide. It's not just some, academic thing to do.
Not at all. It's fundamental.
It really feels like a cornerstone for building a business that can actually last, that's resilient. It empowers you, the listener, to learn from what everyone else is doing, right and wrong.
To really get what your customers need.
Navigate those potential risks with more confidence.
And ultimately, carve out that stronger, more sustainable, competitive position.
And it's not a one-and-done thing, is it?
Oh, definitely not. It's a journey, like you said earlier, the competitive landscape. It's always shifting, always evolving.
So you need that commitment to keep watching, keep learning, keep adapting based on these insights.
Crucial for long-term success.
Yeah.
Absolutely crucial.
Okay, so considering everything we've unpacked today, all this insight about the power of understanding your competitive landscape, here's something to really chew on. What's one assumption you currently hold about your own strategy that you might now want to question? Question in light of what your competitors are doing, or maybe, just as importantly, what they're not doing.
Yeah, that's a good one. And maybe building on that, given that potential gold mine of information hidden in your competitors' customer feedback, what's one specific place you might start looking right now to unearth those really valuable insights?